law school. He was never admitted. He went off and he went off and served in the United States Army and came back. He got a master's degree from the university, from Atlanta University. He went away to Northwestern University and graduated from Northwestern University School of Law. And because he was admitted to the Northwestern School of Law and was pursuing a law course there, he lost his case in federal court. And so he was never successful in getting admitted to the University of Georgia. However, when Hollowell and Mrs. Constance Baker Motley and others were pursuing the integration of the University of Georgia, he was one of the lawyers that worked on that case. And eventually, when Judge Ward was appointed to the United States District Court, his chambers, that is his courtroom, was directly opposite the judge who had excluded him from the University of Georgia Law School. Another attorney that we had working with us who came after I did was William H. Alexander. He was a Georgia boy. He went to Fort Valley State College. He graduated from there. He went off to University of Michigan, and he graduated from University of Michigan Law School. He served his time in the military, and then he went to Georgetown University and got a Master's of Law in Taxation, and he joined our law firm. He and Ward did basically, more or less, did transactional work. He was involved peripherally in one case in which I was involved, and that was a rape case involving a person by the name of Isaac Sims, Jr. And the call came in late one night. He took the call and responded to the call, and then after the case was turned over to me, and eventually we went through a series of trials, and the Supreme Court of the United States eventually overturned Isaac's conviction. Alexander handled the first case where a church took advantage of a federal program to build housing, the Wheat Street Towers. And that was the very first time that any church in the United States, as far as we know, had ever taken advantage of a federal program. And he was the lawyer that conducted all the transactions on behalf of Wheat Street Baptist Church in building the Wheat Street Towers, which is still present. And if you go over to Shermantown or to Fourth Ward, they're still there. And after, the next attorney that was in our office was Peter Renskoff, who was from Connecticut. He went to Yale, 7 years at Yale. When he finished his first year in law school, he came to work for us, and when he graduated, he came and continued to work with our law firm. And we handled many cases together. One of the cases that we handled together that was very significant was Turner v. Goolsby, a case involving the school district, school system in Telefarro County. What had happened, the white people in the county, rather than integrate the schools, arranged to bus their kids to neighboring school districts. The Negroes in the county didn't want to chase after the white people, and we sued. And what we did, we were able to get the school district in Telefarro County placed in a receivership. The state superintendent was a receiver. And they operated the schools for a number of years. But that was the first time in the history of the United States as a remedy for a violation of civil rights that a school district had been placed into a receivership. And Peter was one of the principal lawyers on that case. Another aspect of the case was that went to the U.S. Supreme Court was Turner v. Fuchs, also from Telefarro County. because at that time Georgia had a provision in its law that said that in order to be a member of a school board, that you had to be a property owner. And you could see how that would impact on opportunities for Negroes to be on school boards. And the Supreme Court declared that that provision was unconstitutional. And one of the significant aspects of that case, Turner v. Fuchs, it was the first time that a jury system had been declared unconstitutional or illegal in a civil case. In criminal cases, a particular jury had been declared unconstitutional. But in this particular case, in the Turner case, the system of selection juries in a civil case, a civil action was used for that purpose. Horace Ward, I think it was Horace, it may have been Horace, it could have been Alexander, was involved in a very significant case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court from Macon, Georgia. And there were two cases, Newton v. Abney and Evans v. Abney. And the long and short of the case is that one of the first senators elected after senators were elected to the U.S. Senate through popular vote was Senator Augustus Bacon from Macon, Georgia. And Senator Bacon had given to the city of Macon land to be used as a public park for the benefit of white children and white women and white people in general. Okay. So after the Civil Rights Act came along, the question was whether the park could still be used for that purpose. Of course, the court said no, it couldn't be, and the park had to be integrated. So then this is where the kicker comes in. The question then becomes, does the land revert back to the heirs of Senator Bacon? And so the Senator Bacon's heirs claimed that the land reverted back to them, and the Supreme Court of the United States agreed. And they explained that his preference, his wish to make a gift to white children and white women and white people in general was a mere expression of his private social philosophy and was not a state action, which is a very dangerous precedent. You can see that now in some of the arguments that are taking place with respect to same-sex marriage and other issues, okay? So those are some of the significant cases. One of the very last significant cases out of the student movement was Steffel v. Thompson, which is a case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court in which I argued. And in that case, the question was whether or not the students who were demonstrating against the war in Vietnam could obtain a declaratory judgment. And a declaratory judgment is a legal judgment that where the court says that due to a threat, a likely threat of criminal prosecution, or it could be any issue, that it declares the rights of the parties. And in this particular instance, it declared the rights of the parties, and the rights of the parties was that the students had a right to have a declaratory judgment that they could protest on private property if they adhere to certain rules and regulations. So we had lots and lots of significant cases. And there was one case that I had that no one has ever heard of, but it's perhaps been the most meaningful for me in a way, and that I've